On a brisk morning in the heart of Vatican City, the ancient bells of St. Peter's Basilica echoed through cobblestone streets. The world held its breath, not just in curiosity, but in reverence. This wasn't just any Sunday Massachusetts. This was history unfolding. The air was electric as thousands gathered under the towering columns of St. Peter's Square. Pilgrims in traditional dress, dignitaries in crisp suits, cardinals in scarlet, and cameras flashing from every direction. It was more than a celebration, it was a convergence of faith and diplomacy. Pope Leo XIV, known to the world as Robert Francis Prevost, stepped onto the central balcony. His face calm, his eyes shining, a man now leading over 1.3 billion Catholics. His inaugural Mass had begun, and the world was watching. From the early hours of the morning, Vatican security was tight. Heads of state arrived discreetly but respectfully. Among them, French President Emmanuel Macron, King Felipe VI of Spain, and even a rare appearance from leaders of non-Christian nations. But it wasn't just politicians. From every continent, religious leaders, Muslim imams, Jewish rabbis, Buddhist monks, gathered in mutual witness. Not necessarily as believers, but as observers of a moment where faith, leadership, and hope converged. The world's newest pope had arrived humbly but intentionally. Unlike the grand ceremonial processions of the past, Pope Leo's approach was modest. Still, his presence commanded attention. His first words as pontiff were not grandiose. They were grounded. The Church must now serve, not be served. A statement that resonated, especially in an age where trust in institutions has eroded. The Mass began with Gregorian chant, a tradition preserved for over 1,000 years. But quickly it became evident, this would not be a traditional liturgy. Pope Leo XIV chose to alternate between languages, English, Spanish, Arabic, and Italian, sending a powerful message: the Church speaks to all. The readings and hymns came from around the globe. A Zulu hymn soared above the Vatican walls. A Syrian altar server lit the Paschal candle. A Latin American family presented the offertory. It was a tapestry of cultures woven into the Massachusetts. But the homily, oh, the homily! That was where hearts turned. Standing beneath Michelangelo's dome, Pope Leo delivered a message that would ripple far beyond the square. He spoke of healing, not just spiritual, but global. He called for an end to war in Gaza and Ukraine. He urged nations to welcome migrants with dignity. He criticized political polarization and economic inequality. We cannot preach love while legislating exclusion. We cannot build peace while profiting from arms. Pope Leo XIV. The applause that followed wasn't typical. It was emotional. Even journalists, used to covering politics and power, were seen wiping away tears. For many, this was not just a new pope. It was a new era. Let's talk about who was there. Not just the Vatican faithful. Not just clergy. But lay people. Everyday Catholics. Survivors of abuse. Mothers. Refugees. Scientists. Teachers. Farmers. All hand-selected by parishes around the world. I came from Manila. I lost my home to typhoons, but my parish raised money to send me here. Seeing the Pope in person, I feel like God hasn't forgotten us. I'm from Congo. We live with conflict every day. But today, standing here, I feel peace is possible. Historically, inaugural masses have been elaborate, ceremonial, and contained within the framework of Vatican protocol. But Pope Leo XIV changed that. He walked down the steps, unannounced, to greet the disabled pilgrims seated in the front rows. Among them were children, amputees, and even an elderly woman who had fled Mariupol. The Pope kissed her forehead. And the entire square, including heads of state, rose to their feet. Within minutes of the Mass ending, social media exploded. Hashtag Pope Leo XIV was trending globally. President Lula da Silva of Brazil tweeted, "A new light shines from the Vatican. May this Pope walk with the people." Ex-President Biden said, "A humble servant for complex times. We welcome his call for peace." Kenyan Cardinal Otunga Jr. "This Mass was not just Catholic. It was universal. Instead of wearing traditional papal regalia, Pope Leo introduced a new pectoral cross, a simple wooden cross embedded with stones from conflict zones: Gaza, Ukraine, Congo, Syria. It is now being called the Cross of the Missionary Heart, and already being replicated across dioceses. This wasn't just liturgy. This was a statement. As the bells rang again, the Pope offered a final blessing. His words, short but unforgettable. From balconies in Rome to smartphones in Nigeria, people bowed their heads. It was not just the beginning of a papacy. It was the rekindling of something ancient, and something desperately needed in our modern world: hope. May 18, 2025, a date that will be etched in the annals of history. St. Peter's Square transformed into a mosaic of cultures, beliefs, and hopes. Over 200,000 faithful gathered, their hearts unified in anticipation, as the world turned its eyes to the Vatican. The inaugural Mass of Pope Leo XIV was not just a religious ceremony, it was a diplomatic convergence. Leaders from across the globe assembled to witness this historic event. U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance, representing the American faithful. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, seeking solace and support amidst ongoing conflict. Israeli President Isaac Herzog, symbolizing interfaith solidarity. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, reflecting the diverse tapestry of the Catholic Church. Peruvian President Dina Boluarte, honoring the Pope's deep ties to Peru. Their presence underscored the universal significance of the papacy and the hope vested in Pope Leo XIV's leadership. As the Mass commenced, Pope Leo XIV ascended the altar, his demeanor humble yet resolute. In his homily, he addressed the fractures within the Church and the world. We are called to offer God's love to everyone, in order to achieve that unity which does not cancel out differences but values the personal history of each person and the social and religious culture of every people. He emphasized the need for a missionary spirit, urging the faithful to reach out beyond their comfort zones, to heal divisions, and to be instruments of peace. Beyond the spiritual, the Mass served as a backdrop for significant diplomatic interactions. A poignant moment unfolded as Vice President J.D. Vance and President Zelensky exchanged greetings, a gesture symbolizing potential reconciliation and unity. Post-Mass, Pope Leo XIV held private meetings with several leaders, including a heartfelt conversation with President Zelensky, where discussions of peace and mutual understanding took center stage. The Mass was a symphony of tradition and reverence. The Fisherman's Ring was bestowed upon Pope Leo XIV, symbolizing his role as the successor to St. Peter. The pallium, woven with lamb's wool, was draped over his shoulders, representing his duty as the shepherd of the Church. The choir's hymns resonated through the square, their melodies weaving through the hearts of the attendees, transcending language and culture. Pope Leo XIV's words extended beyond the confines of the Vatican. He addressed global issues with clarity and compassion. Too much discord, too many wounds caused by hatred, violence, prejudice, the fear of difference, and the economic paradigm that exploits the earth's resources and marginalizes the poorest. His call was clear: for a church and a world that embraces unity, compassion, and proactive engagement with the challenges of our time. As the Mass concluded, Pope Leo XIV embarked on a tour of St. Peter's Square in the Pope Mobile. His interactions were heartfelt, blessing children held aloft by their parents, embracing the elderly who reached out with trembling hands, sharing smiles and words with pilgrims from every corner of the globe. These moments painted a portrait of a pope deeply connected to his flock, embodying the very essence of pastoral care. The inaugural Mass of Pope Leo XIV was more than a ceremony, it was a beacon of hope. A testament to the enduring power of faith, unity, and the human spirit. As the sun set over the Vatican, a new chapter in the Church's history began, guided by a pope committed to walking with his people, hand in hand, towards a future illuminated by love and understanding. As the sun cast its golden hue over St. Peter's Square, the world bore witness to a historic moment: the inauguration of Pope Leo XIV. The atmosphere was electric, charged with hope, reverence, and anticipation. The inaugural Mass was not just a religious ceremony, it was a global event. An estimated 200,000 faithful gathered, with millions more tuning in worldwide. The congregation was a tapestry of cultures, languages, and traditions, reflecting the universal nature of the Catholic Church. Dignitaries from over 150 countries were present, including U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, Israeli President Isaac Herzog, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, Peruvian President Dina Boluarte, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, King Felipe and Queen Letizia of Spain. Their presence underscored the Pope's message of unity and the Church's role in global affairs. In his homily, Pope Leo XIV emphasized the need for unity within the Church and the world. He spoke of healing divisions, embracing diversity, and fostering a spirit of reconciliation. "I would like that our first great desire be for a united Church, a sign of unity and communion, which becomes a leaven for a reconciled world," he proclaimed. He addressed contemporary issues, including conflict in Ukraine and Gaza, calling for peace and dialogue, economic inequality, highlighting the marginalization of the poor, environmental concerns, urging stewardship of the earth. His words resonated deeply, offering a vision of a church engaged with the world's challenges. Following the Mass, Pope Leo XIV engaged in private meetings with several world leaders. Notably, he met with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, discussing the Vatican's potential role in mediating peace talks between Ukraine and Russia. These diplomatic efforts signaled the Pope's commitment to positioning the Church as a facilitator of global peace and dialogue. The inauguration ceremony was steeped in tradition. Pope Leo XIV received the fisherman's ring and the palm, symbols of his pastoral authority and unity with the Church. Yet, he also embraced modernity. His use of social media to communicate with the faithful and his openness to contemporary issues demonstrated a balance between tradition and innovation. Pope Leo XIV's vision extends beyond the Vatican. He aims to promote synodality, encouraging collective decision-making within the Church, foster interfaith dialogue, building bridges with other religions, address social issues, tackling poverty, injustice, and environmental degradation. His approach reflects a church that is inclusive, compassionate, and responsive to the needs of the modern world. As Pope Leo XIV embarks on his papal journey, he carries with him the hopes of millions. His inaugural Mass was not just the beginning of a new papacy, it was the dawn of a renewed commitment to unity, peace, and global engagement.